It's usually pretty easy to find out, to realize when you're comparing apples to oranges, when we're looking at traffic to a certain page versus a completely different metric about that page. They're completely different things. We can't compare them and see if an increase in this increased over here as well. They're completely different metrics. It's pretty easy to know these things really aren't comparable. In analytics and looking at your website performance, what gets tricky is that it often is more so that we're not comparing apples to oranges. It's almost like we're comparing green apples to red apples. The traffic can look really similar and really even be the same exact metric, but comparing that metric during different times is just not a comparable and not an equal comparison. And I'll give some examples of what I mean by that. But that's really the thing that you have to look out for the most, is when it looks like you're comparing the same thing, but actually there are some other factors that are impacting that performance. So what I mean by that is if there's a dramatic change in traffic due to something other than your changes to the website. So due to maybe a news article coming out about your company that is driving people to your site, things like that, that would be outside of you that are making people come to your site. Comparing data from during the time frame when that event happened to before that, when that event hadn't been happening, is not really a fair comparison. When the event was happening, you were getting a lot more traffic from these people who actually weren't there to view your products. They were there because of this news article or other source that drove them to your website. So comparing data from that time showing increased visits on your homepage, increased visits on these product pages, isn't fair when you're just comparing it to people who are actually looking at you to work with you as an organization. While it might signal that you've had this huge increase in traffic, that's probably going to immediately fall off. And it's really not a fair thing to look at comparing those one to one. Another big thing to look into is the seasonality of your business. We've previously worked with companies that say are in landscaping and do all of their sales for the most part in the spring or the early summer when people are buying their products to do landscaping over the summer, and their business falls off dramatically in the winter. Well, if you compare the 6 months that are include winter to the 6 months that include summer to see how successful was your website over those, comparing those 2 months, it's really not going to be comparable. People aren't coming to your site for products in the winter and they are coming to your site in the summer. So comparing those two time frames to see if a change you made to the website at the end of winter was successful really isn't fair, because it's going to show this major increase, but that's not due to the change you made on your site. It's due to just the seasonality of your business. So in cases like this, comparing a full year of data to include both the slow times and the increased times is going to be really helpful to you. And just kind of knowing that you have to look at things in a slightly bigger picture, most likely, to really get a full understanding of what's happening.